Sodium-potassium ATPase pump. The sodium-potassium pump was discovered in 1957 by Danish scientist Jens Christian, who was later awarded Nobel Prize for his work in 1997. Sodium-potassium ATPase pump are basically the transport proteins, a form of integral protein which is present in the cell membrane. They are also responsible for the enzymatic activity. Therefore, they have the ATPase and they mediate the transport of sodium and potassium against the concentration gradient. They are almost found in all the membranes of all the animal cells. In mammals, they can be found in the 4 different subtypes or the isoforms, and they belong to the subfamily of B type of ATPase. As we said, the sodium potassium ATPase are present in all the animal cells, all the cell membrane of the animal cells. That means that they play a very important role. The importance of these sodium potassium ATPase pump can be cited by these 2 examples. For example, in the kidney, in the distal convoluted tubule, the number of these is approximately 50 million pumps per cell. So there they are functioning in the reabsorption of the tubular fluid as well as secretion of certain ions into the tubular lumen. And in the gray matter, which is the center for the neuronal activity, the sodium potassium ATPase consumes approximately 3/4 of the energy. So this slide emphasizes on the point that sodium potassium ATPase pump are the very important or the essential pumps in the normal cell physiology. Now coming to the functions of the sodium potassium ATPase pump, the first function that it is a transport protein, therefore it maintains the transport of sodium and potassium ion across the cell membrane. It is in the coupling ratio of 3:2, which means 3 sodium ions are excluded out of the cell in exchange of 2 potassium ions, which are brought inside the cell by this pump. The second mechanism is because of this pumping of sodium and potassium, it is able to maintain the concentration gradient difference across the cell membrane for sodium and potassium. This difference in concentration gradient results in the electrical gradient. Therefore, it is also known by the name of electrogenic pump, and the contribution of this sodium potassium ATPase pump in the resting membrane potential is minus 4 millivolt because of this gradient. Then it is also responsible for the maintenance of cell volume because, as we know, if more number of sodium are accumulated inside the cell, what will happen? It will exert an osmotic effect leading to accumulation of water, cellular swelling and bursting of the cell. This is, however, prevented by this sodium potassium ATPase pump, which is responsible for excluding the sodium ions outside the cell in exchange of potassium. So what you see in this slide is the structure, electronic structure, 3D structure of sodium potassium ATPase pump. Here we can see the different type of globular proteins which are the constituents of the sodium potassium ATPase pump. As we said that it is a type of integral protein. The majority part of this sodium potassium ATPase pump is by alpha subunit with a molecular weight of 1 lakh. It has 10 domains that span the cell membrane. Then we have in green color we have the beta or the smaller subunit that has a weight of 55,000. The main activity of sodium potassium ATPase pump resides in the alpha subunit. The beta subunit is the structural or the anchoring protein which helps in fixing of this sodium potassium ATPase pump to the cell membrane. In some of the variants, we also have this domain as shown in this golden color, that is the gamma domain or the gamma subunit, the function of which is not yet known. The sodium potassium ATPase pump is an integral protein. The activity is residing mainly in the alpha subunit, as we can see here. It has these binding site. The site number 1 is that for binding of 3 sodium ions, which are then excluded outside the cell. Site number 2 is for potassium, which is brought into the cell. Then we have a site that is for the binding of ouabain, which is on the extracellular fluid site. And then site number 4, that is for the binding of ATP and resulting in hydrolysis of the ATP with the release of phosphate, and that phosphate attaches to site number 5. And whereas the beta subunit, as you can see here, is responsible for the anchoring of this alpha subunit to the cell membrane. So let us understand the functioning of sodium potassium ATPase pump. We have these 6 steps, as you can see. In the first step, the 3 sodium ions bind to the intracellular sites on the sodium potassium ATPase pump. Then we have this ATPase activity by the sodium potassium ATPase pump, resulting in breakdown of ATP into ADP and phosphate molecule. This phosphate then binds to the phosphate binding site of this pump. Then third step is that this pump undergoes a conformational change, resulting in translocating of the sodium ion from the inside of the cell to the outside across the cell membrane. Then the fourth step is that this conformational change exposes the 2 sites for the potassium binding, and these potassium sites are then exposed to the potassium ion on the extracellular site. Potassium ion binds to these 2 sites, resulting in the release of the phosphate group which was attached to the ATPase molecule, causing the pump to return to its original conformation. And this conformational change causes the release of potassium to the cell interior across the cell membrane. So this is the main mechanism by which 3 sodium ions has been transported from the inside of the cell to the outside against a concentration gradient, and there is an influx of potassium against the concentration gradient, utilizing the energy released by this sodium potassium ATPase pump. The sodium potassium pump activity can be upregulated, which means there is an increase in activity of sodium potassium pump, either in the number or in its functioning. The increase can be brought by the several hormones, for example, aldosterone, thyroid hormone, insulin, or the levels of cyclic AMP and DAG. Similarly, the decreased activity is seen in sodium potassium pump in case of low temperature condition, decrease in oxygen level, or certain glycosides which cause the inhibition of activity of this pump. You can see in this figure also. So if I ask you what is the role of sodium potassium pump in hyperthyroid patients, the patient have increase in heat intolerance, they have increased sweating, increase in weight loss. So what do you think is the role of this sodium potassium ATPase in causing these symptoms? It is basically the thyroid hormone causes the increased number of sodium potassium ATPase pump, and this pump increases the basal metabolic rate, it increases the oxygen consumption, therefore it causes increased respiratory rate, body temperature, calorogenesis, leading to the various symptoms which are seen in the patient of hyperthyroidism. Now, can you consider a situation in which if we experimentally increase the concentration of sodium and potassium? So what we have the increased electrochemical gradient for this sodium and potassium, so much so that the energy is stored in the gradient. They don't require a pump for moving down the concentration gradient. So what will happen? The sodium potassium pump will rather run in a reverse direction. It will start synthesis of ATP from ADP and phosphate instead of breakdown of ATP. So in this condition, the sodium potassium ATPase pump will run in a reverse direction. If the sodium potassium ATPase pump fails to function, what will be the effect on the cell functioning? The first effect will be cellular depolarization. So why do you think there is cellular depolarization? Because once this pump fails, there will be more sodium accumulated inside the cell. So sodium are the positively charged ion, so they will bring about the cellular depolarization. The second change will be cellular swelling. This is again related to the sodium. When we have increased amount of sodium inside the cell, then we have increased amount of osmotic effect, resulting in drawing of water, resulting in cellular swelling and then cellular dysfunction. Then we have loss of electrogenic component of resting membrane potential. Why? Because now the coupling ratio of 3:2 will not be maintained, and a contribution toward resting membrane potential of -4 millivolt will be lost. So we don't have this contribution by this sodium potassium ATPase pump. So these are some of the effects that will occur when this pump stops functioning. So with your knowledge of and understanding of sodium potassium ATPase, can you discuss the role of digoxin which is used in the treatment of heart failure? Here what you see is a cardiac muscle cell that has a presence of sodium calcium exchanger and also sodium potassium ATPase pump, which is invariably present in all the cells of the body. So what happens with digoxin is there is a block in this sodium potassium ATPase pump. So blockage of this sodium potassium ATPase pump will result in increased concentration of sodium inside the cell. So once sodium is more inside the cell, this sodium calcium exchanger will not function. There will be no movement of the sodium to the cell inside. So more of calcium will be retained in the cardiac muscle cell. So if we have more of calcium in the cardiac muscle cell, this calcium will facilitate in the muscle contraction. Therefore, it will help to improve the functioning of the heart. So this is the role of digoxin in the heart failure. There is increased calcium level, and this calcium will facilitate the will be helpful in as an inotropic supporting agent, which is clinically used in the patient of heart failure. So these are the different steps on how cardiac glycosides increase the cardiac contractility. There is an increase in intracellular sodium concentration. Then there is a decreased activity of sodium calcium antiporters, an increase in calcium concentration, finally leading to the increased contraction of the cardiac muscle, as I said earlier. Now, if you have understood this topic of sodium potassium ATPase pump and its role in physiological functions of the body, then you should be able to answer this, that why cardiac arrhythmia occur in cases of extensive tissue or the cell damage where the sodium potassium ATPase are not functioning normally because they too are damaged. So you should be able to answer this question. The references for this topic.